Hello, Football for Kids listeners. A couple of years ago, I started writing this story on a football-obsessed young man called Charlie. One day, in the school holidays, he goes from dreaming about a glorious piece of cheesecake to having to try and save the day when a very precious and very special trophy goes missing. Along the way, he meets some rather unusual characters, and then he has to work out who on earth is behind the stolen cup. So, over the next few weeks, on Patreon and on Apple Podcast subscription, super listeners and club captains will get to hear the story unfold. If you're already a super listener or a club captain, you can listen to Chapter 2 straight after this ad-free. If you're not, please consider joining up via Apple Podcast subscription or via Patreon. The link is in the description of this episode. So then, here we go. Chapter 1. This is the story of Charlie and the mystery of the missing cup. Charlie and the mystery of the missing cup. Written and read by Darren Rees. Chapter 1. Cheesecake. It was a wet and windy Monday morning in the school holidays, and Charlie, a football bonkers boy, aged 8 3/4, was laying in bed fast asleep dreaming. Dreaming of cheesecake. Not any old cheesecake though. He was dreaming of a football-shaped cheesecake. The inner layer was thick, buttery biscuit. The next layer was a thick and creamy cheese, and the outer layer was a mixture of different chocolates patterned like a football. Charlie lay there in his room surrounded by posters. It was almost like there was a football tornado which had passed through his bedroom. There was posters of footballers everywhere, with a football patterned duvet, and the floor was covered in football cards. So much so that you couldn't see an inch of the carpet, much to Charlie's mum's annoyance. As Charlie's dream went by and he got closer and closer to eating the delicious cheesecake, he took a knife and cut an almighty chunk, plating it into a bowl. He walked over to the drawer, grabbed a spoon, and as he dived in, there was an almighty crash of thunder, and a gust of wind smashed into his bedroom window, waking him up from this glorious dream. Where Charlie lived was opposite a very special building, a building holding a very special cup, the famous cup, a football cup which has been played for over 100 years. It was made out of brass and had dents all over it, battered from being lifted and dropped and chucked around by all the top teams and all the top players. It's one of the most special football cups on earth. Charlie jumped out of bed with his heart still thumping out of his chest from the sudden crash of thunder. He walked from his bed to the window to watch the storm and dodge the lightning, when he noticed across the road in the very special building that the side door was open. It's never normally open, Charlie thought. I wonder if Mrs. Amber is there. Mrs. Amber is the caretaker of the building. She's been there for 53 years. She has grey, crazy hair, a tash that nobody has the heart to tell her about, and is always wearing the same thing. A light yellow top, a dark blue skirt covered in cat fur, and some heavy-duty boots. Charlie very quickly got himself into one of his 52 football kits. He raced down the stairs and shouted to his mum that he was going across the road to see Mrs. Amber. Charlie's mum didn't even look up from her coffee. She was used to Charlie going to see Mrs. Amber. The family had known her ever since they'd moved in many years ago. A kind, warm, and a little bit crazy old lady with a heart of gold. When Charlie crossed the road, he saw 3 people all walking in different directions near the special building. There was a man with a long brown coat which looked like it had seen better days. He had long dark hair which looked like seaweed, and about 3 teeth. He was drenched from the rain, and walking past at a fast pace while whistling through his teeth as he spoke to himself. What shall I have for my supper? Sesame seed soup. Sesame seed soup. The man walked past Charlie going to his left, and as he stared at him, Charlie thought to himself, how very strange. Then another person walked past him going the completely opposite direction. A lady with a smart black and white coat and a black hat like the ladies wear at the races. She was caked in beads, but the most unusual thing about her was that she had a Rottweiler dog which looked just like her. The Rottweiler had pink beads, a similar style hat, and some bright pink lipstick on. The lady chatted away to her dog, and the dog's name appeared to be Patricia. Charlie thought to himself, how very strange. Just as he thought that, a man with a wooden leg came out of nowhere from behind him to cross the road. He had a sleeveless leather vest, a pirate-looking bandana, and a very distinctive wooden peg leg which was on full show. As he walked along, he sung a song to himself. You with a wooden leg, poke the fire. 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 Charlie thought to himself, how very strange. As Charlie thought to himself, how very strange, Mrs. Amber came flying out of a side door of a special building, screaming at the top of her voice. Ah! The cup! The famous cup! It's gone! What, Mrs. Amber? Said Charlie. It can't be. Let me come and have a look with you. As Charlie walked through the door, he noticed a few different things. Firstly, the markings of what looked like a walking stick. Secondly, a bright pink bead from a necklace. And lastly, a weird smell in the air. It smelt like soup. That's strange, Charlie thought. Charlie followed Mrs. Amber through a series of doors to the room where the famous cup was being kept. She was right. It was gone. Nowhere to be seen at all. Blimmin' heck, said Charlie. You aren't wrong. It's gone. You've got to call the police, Mrs. Amber. I can't. If I call the police, I'll have to notify the owners. And if they find out, well, I'll lose my job, Charlie. I can't lose my job. It's not your fault, though, said Charlie. Mrs. Amber, you've done nothing wrong. The police will be able to find the thieves who stole it. No, said Mrs. Amber in a stern voice. It was my fault and I need to fix it. Right you are, said Charlie, looking a little worried. Mrs. Amber paced around in circles, tapping her walking stick on the floor and saying the same thing over and over again. Think! 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 I'm trying to, Mrs. Amber, said Charlie, but I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit worried you're going to start an earthquake with that walking stick of yours. Right! Mrs. Amber shouted in a high-pitched voice. We need to do what the police would do in a situation like this. Or we could just call the police. It's only 3 numbers. It's completely free, and they might even let us have a go on the sirens, Mrs. Amber. No! Squealed Mrs. Amber. First things first, we must preserve and protect the crime scene. Have you got a camera in your house, Charlie? I think I have, said Charlie. Well, what are you waiting for? Off you trot. Go and get it. And for goodness sake, don't tell anyone about the missing cup. Charlie looked left and right before running across the road, bursting through his front door and running up the stairs on his hands and feet like an excited dog. What on earth are you doing? Shouted Charlie's mum. Mrs. Amber's gone mad. She's turned into a crime Charlie suddenly remembered. He wasn't to say a word to anyone. Mrs. Amber's done what, Charlie? Nothing! He shouted as he found the old camera and flew down the stairs and out the door. Mrs. Amber was waiting outside the building, looking very sketchy indeed. She'd stuck a pair of shades on in the hope that nobody would notice her, but of course, everyone would notice her. She had been looking after that place for 53 years. Charlie came running across the road with the camera, breathing heavily and looking very hot and sweaty. As he handed the camera over to Mrs. Amber, a shiny black car with wheels so clean you could see your face in them pulled up beside them. The car's windows slowly wound down, and a man with a bald head, which was as shiny as his wheels, with reflective shades on, said, "You don't know us, Mrs. Amber, but we know you, Mrs. Amber." "Who are you?" Mrs. Amber said in a scared and shaken voice. "Never you mind," said the man. "But earlier today, we had one of our secret detectives take the famous cup, and if you want it back in time for the cup final on Saturday, you need to give us £50,000. It needs to be in a suitcase, and it needs to be left behind that tree over there. Friday, 10 a.m. If it's not there, no one will ever see the cup again, and we mean it." The car sped off with its tyres screeching, leaving marks on the road. Mrs. Amber went into full panic mode, and poor Charlie was trying to find the right words. "Right, we've got to call the police now, Mrs. Amber. This has got completely out of control." "No chance," she said. "I've been looking after this place for over half a century, and you and I, Charlie, are going to find the culprits, and we're going to get that cup back." Mrs. Amber started by taking pictures of evidence in the building and swabbed the door handles for fingerprints. Once Mrs. Amber had finished, she said, "In you come, Charlie," and showed Charlie an evidence wall which she had created inside the building. Mrs. Amber had stuck pictures on the wall and pieces of evidence on the table beneath it. "Right, Charlie, there must have been someone who saw something." "Well, yeah, I guess I did, Mrs. Amber." "What do you mean you did, Charlie?" "Well, I did see a few strange things when making my way over here earlier." "What do you mean by strange, Charlie?" "Well, there was a man with long hair and a long coat whistling about his lunch, and then there was a lady in a fur coat who dressed her dog up and called it Patricia. And then there was a man with a peg leg singing a funny old song about you with a wooden leg poke the fire. They were all right near the special building, going in different directions, right at the same time that I made my way across the road to investigate." "Charlie," said Mrs. Amber, "have you seen these people before?" No, never," Charlie said. "Well," said Mrs. Amber, "we need to do something to attract those people back here so we can interrogate them." Mrs. Amber?" "Yes," said Mrs. Amber. "Interrogate is a bit of a strong one, isn't it?" "We've got to get the famous cup back, Charlie, by hook or by crook." By hook or by crook. She's gone completely mad, thought Charlie. Mrs. Amber then said to Charlie, "Tomorrow we'll put on a competition of 3 categories." Charlie interrupted. Mrs. Amber, tomorrow is Tuesday. I can't imagine we're going to attract many people on a Tuesday, are we?" "Well, why not?" said Mrs. Amber. "Well, because it's Tuesday, Mrs. Amber. It's not exactly a Saturday or a Sunday. People are at work." Mrs. Amber insisted that they would get on and they would do the competition. She told Charlie to tell his mum that he had to go and help Mrs. Amber with a project for school that would help Charlie with his homework. Charlie looked left, right, left again, and one last time to the right before he raced across the road, opened the door ever so slightly, and shouted into the house. "Mum, I'm going to Mrs. Amber's. She's helping me with a project for school. Back at dinner." Charlie's mum started to answer back before the sound of a door slamming cut her off. Charlie and Mrs. Amber started the short walk from the special building to Mrs. Amber's house. As Charlie and Mrs. Amber arrived at 543 Templeware Close, where Mrs. Amber lived, Charlie walked up the long, windy path, brushing his hands across the long, overgrown cottage garden plants before arriving at the front door of her house. "You'll have to excuse the cats," said Mrs. Amber. "There's quite a few of them. They're all very friendly, though." Charlie entered the cottage and was immediately struck by the smell of tuna and the sight of many cats. "How many cats have you got, Mrs. Amber?" "15, shouted Mrs. Amber. 5 British Shorthairs, 5 Persians, and 5 Scottish Folds." Mrs. Amber was charging around her house like a headless chicken, looking for something. What are you looking for, Mrs. Amber?" said Charlie. "My box of tricks, Charlie. My box of tricks." "Ah, Mrs. Amber shouted with a pleased and relieved tone. "Here it is!" Mrs. Amber had opened the box of tricks, which was full of arts and crafts gear. She told Charlie to sit at the table, plonked the box in front of him, and said it was time to make posters for the competition. Charlie couldn't quite believe what was happening and said, "Right, Mrs. Amber, I thought you were joking. We're actually going to be putting on a competition." "Yes, absolutely we are, Charlie," said Mrs. Amber. What on earth is this competition going to be?" "Well, Charlie," said Mrs. Amber, "you said that you'd never seen these people before, right?" Yes, that's right." "Well, we need to entice them back. The man who whistled about his supper, the lady with the Rottweiler called Patricia, and the gentleman with the wooden leg. We're going to have a talent competition, Charlie," said Mrs. Amber. "You've gone completely mad," said Charlie. "Mark my words, Charlie, we'll get to the bottom of this. Now, we've got work to do. We need to make a poster which says talent competition with 3 categories. 1, the soup competition. 2, the dogs that look like their owners competition. And 3, the fire poking competition. Tuesday, May 14th. Charlie did what he was told and got on with making the posters. Once Mrs. Amber and Charlie finished making the posters, they stuck them in every shop window and on every lamppost 3 miles radius of the special building where the competition would take place. Tuesday afternoon came, and unbelievably, there was a queue of people outside. There was a range of folk standing there with dogs, pots of soup, and fire poking sticks. This was quite possibly the strangest competition that has ever happened in England, maybe even in the world. Mrs. Amber said to Charlie, "Charlie, you must be at the door signing people in. You know what the 3 people look like, don't you? You need to have a sharp eye on you today. If one of them turns up, you need to give me an over-exaggerated wink and point to them. Is that understood, Charlie?" Charlie, looking a little bit bewildered, nodded and agreed. Charlie stood at the door and welcomed all the attendees, noting down their names, numbers, and their addresses. This is genius, thought Charlie. If the 3 of them come to the door, we can get their addresses and check them out. Mrs. Amber is a genius, he thought. As the queue started to get smaller, and there was only a handful of people left, Charlie spotted that the last 2 people were no other than the lady with the Rottweiler Patricia and the man who whistled about his soup. "Bingo," he muttered. Charlie clocked Mrs. Amber's eye, gave her an over-exaggerated wink, and nodded their direction. Mrs. Amber then jumped onto the stage, grabbed a megaphone, and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, cooks and dog owners, welcome to the Winkleberry Soup Dog and Fire Poking Competition. My name is Mrs. Amber, and I'm the head judge. That boy over there is Charlie, and he's the deputy head judge. We will test your soups, view your dogs, and watch your fire poking skills. So, well, get yourselves ready." Mrs. Amber and Charlie then spent the next couple of hours doing one of the strangest competitions you could ever imagine. They tasted a range of soups, including a broccoli, cabbage and sprout soup, a beetroot, aubergine and purple carrot soup, and a sesame seed soup. The fire poking competition was called off for health and safety reasons, and only one lady turned up for the dogs that looked like their owners section. Once the afternoon's events had finished, Charlie and Mrs. Amber reconvened to look at the addresses of the 2 possible thieves. The lady who called her dog Patricia was also called Patricia herself, and she lived at 405 Twirler Avenue. And the man who whistled about his sesame seed soup lived at 333 Potland Lane. Mrs. Amber and Charlie agreed to meet at the special building at 9 a.m. the next day, as this would be a big day in the mystery of the missing cup. So, that was chapter 1. Who do you think the thief is? The plot thickens and the adventure continues on Patreon and on Apple Podcast subscription, where you can listen to chapter 2 right now.
podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.